So the title and the thumbnail might be a little clickbait. The Mirage is not useless. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that straight up. Yeah, go ahead and tell me how horrible I am in the comments section down below. But while you're down there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Guys, I'm back with the Mirage 3C. I think that's the name. Because you have the Mirage 3E, which I'm not going to buy anytime soon because I've heard nothing but bad things about it. But here we are in the Mirage 3C, and I kind of like the plane. It's not the best plane, but it's pretty fun. It's definitely unique, especially because of the missiles. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but here we are on Hokkaido. On Hokkaido, I pretty much always take off and fly left. On no matter which side, I guess if I'm on the other side, I'd go straight. Definitely not paying attention to what I'm doing. I probably wasn't even looking at my monitor at that point. And I ripped off landing gear. Luckily, we're not going to need any landing gear right now, so I'll consider myself lucky in that sense. But the Mirage is an interesting plane. It's a Delta Wing. It's the most Delta Wing looking Delta Wing I've seen in the history of all Delta Wings, and that means it can pull some pretty hard AOA at certain speeds, but in other speeds, not so much. In fact, if you're going supersonic in both the MiG-21 BIS and the Mirage, the MiG-21 will actually pull an entire 360-degree turn quicker than the Mirage will, unless the Mirage uses air brakes or something like that. The Mirage is actually pretty piss poor at turning at high speeds. In fact, like I said, if you're supersonic, it compresses pretty damn hard and it doesn't want to turn. You have to bleed off that initial 100 to 200 kilometers an hour. When you are going supersonic, get back down into subsonic. And there is a really nice sweet spot where the Mirage likes turning, and that's roughly about 500, 600 miles an hour, which is roughly 800 to 960 kilometers an hour. Even in the lower ranges of speeds, it'll turn pretty damn well, better than most everything else at this battle rating. But on the flip side, just like it doesn't turn very well at high speeds, it doesn't turn well at low speeds either. Once you get to 300 miles an hour, 500, 400 or 500 kilometers an hour, stuff like that, the Mirage doesn't really like turning anymore. And once again, the MiG-21 BIS will have the advantage in the turn fight at the really low stalling kind of speeds, just because it has a stronger engine and it can kind of help itself get more degrees a second out of a turn with that engine. So what does that leave for the Mirage? You got a plane that isn't particularly fast in the slightest. In fact, it kind of struggles to get up to supersonic speed sometimes on most maps. You really got to fly straight in a straight line without touching any of the controls for quite a while to break Mach 1 in this aircraft. It doesn't accelerate particularly fast either. It's really a turn fighter. It even looks like a turn fighter, but it can only turn fight at a very particular set of speeds, and that really doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the Mirage. Basically, in this aircraft, the best chances for success is just fly in a straight line and try to pick people off with the magics, and let's get into that. These Matra Magics, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the magic missiles are insane. They really are, just like the name entails, magic. They pull 30 Gs, and they actually pull 30 Gs, unlike our 60s, which say they pull 30 Gs, but actually don't. The magics do. And they are insanely fast. I think it might be the fastest infrared missile in the game. And as well, they're not so susceptible to flares. They have a pretty narrow seeker head similar to that of an AIM-9, and a very, very wide cone of view, so you can lead the missile pretty damn well before launching it. All things considered, the magic missiles are pretty much 2 free kills unless they get flared away or something like that. It is still possible to flare magics. It's a lot harder than something like an SRAM or an R60, but it is definitely doable. So just keep that in mind. Always try to fire missiles at targets that don't already see that you're there, generally speaking, especially considering you only get 2 of them in the Mirage. It does have that one radar guided missile. It's a very, very good missile for a Fox 1 anyways, but just like all the radar missiles in this game, don't rely on it. Don't play your plane with the radar missile as your primary weapon, because odds are you probably won't actually get a kill with it in a game. It's just kind of there just in case you need it or if the opportunity presents itself. Now, that being said, you do have to go to high altitude for radar missiles to actually work, and the Mirage has no RWR or flares. That's kind of a big problem if you've got to go up to high altitude and you plan on doing any Fox 1 fighting, because unless the Phantoms are on your team, you're probably going to get absolutely destroyed by AIM-7s that you have no idea were even launched at you because you don't have RWR, and therefore you won't be able to defend against it. Generally speaking, I recommend keeping the Mirage at medium to low altitude. Usually low altitude, just the whole point is stay close enough to the ground that it's going to be kind of hard for Sparrows and Phantom radars to see you, and that way that kind of solves that problem. A much harder problem to solve, though, is that the Mirage does not have flares, like I said before, and given that it doesn't really like turning unless it's in a very particular range of speeds, then it's an absolutely fantastic turner, don't get me wrong, but in top tier jets, you want to stay fast, you want to stay supersonic at pretty much all times, and when you are supersonic in the Mirage, it doesn't like turning. If you do get a missile launched at you within like 2 kilometers, and you are supersonic, you have a little bit of a chance of outrunning it. Depends on what the missile is. In R60, you can probably outrun and outmaneuver at 2 kilometers, but in AIM-9J, not going to happen. You're going to have to maneuver very aggressively if you're going to evade that one, and anything inside of 2 kilometers, just give up. If you're flying supersonic and somebody launches a missile within 2 kilometers, you're not evading it. You just can't pull hard enough to get away from that missile at those kind of speeds. The Phantom, for example, not a very good turning aircraft either, but it does have flares, and if you know how to use flares, they really are get out of jail free cards. Not everybody knows how to use flares properly. I might do a video on that in itself, but the point stands. The Mirage doesn't have flares. It can be very difficult to avoid missiles. The best defense for the Mirage against missiles is not get them launched at you in the first place. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but it's actually, it's a little more strategical than you might think. You hear me say all the time that positioning is pretty much the number one deciding factor, I guess, in a 10.7 fight. Whichever team positions themselves properly, granted the matchmaker isn't completely one-sided for one of the teams, that team's generally going to win, and the Mirage is no exception. You want to make sure that you try to keep your nose pointed at the enemy at all times. That's a lot easier said than done, I recognize that. The match can kind of disperse. You'll have little pockets of enemy aircraft all over the map. It's kind of hard to keep everyone in one direction in front of you at all times, but just keep that in mind. If you have somebody in front of you that they're flying away from you, you have their 6 o'clock, but then you have someone on your 6 o'clock too, it's not worth it. Just stop chasing that guy in front of you, pull your nose back around to the guy on your 6, that way he can't launch a missile at you, and that's pretty much your best defense. I generally don't like playing aircraft like this because they don't really have as much potential to carry a match or really shape a match according to how you play, like something like the F4E or the MiG-21 BIST do, but I mean, it's not a terrible aircraft. It's good for 2 to 3 kills every game just because the magics are so damn consistent, and as long as you can position yourself properly, then you can probably get both your magics off before dying. But dying is not uncommon in the Mirage, not at least for me anyways. It's very difficult to get something like an AIM-9J off of your tail after it's been launched. So once again, just try not to get them fired at you in the first place, and that's going to be your best bet in this aircraft. Jumping into the next match, we're on Sicily. I spot 2 Su-17s using their air spawn to rush right towards us. I really recommend don't doing that, guys. If you have an aircraft at this battle rate and with an air spawn, don't just jump in front of everybody and be the first one into combat. You're going to die. You're going to get completely swarmed by the enemy team. There is a time and a place where an air spawn is great for rushing at some battle ratings because the enemy team just won't be fast enough and won't be high enough to deal with you. But at 10.7 and these afterburners on all the aircraft, they're getting up to speed very quickly and they're going to deal with you very quickly. And you're not going to have any teammates around to save you, and you're going to get swarmed by everybody. So please, if if you have air spawns and you actually plan on being a fighter, don't go rushing. Now we picked off one of the SU-17s at the Magic. He had absolutely no chance of dodging that. The SU-17's kind of in the same boat as the Mirage when it comes to missiles, being that it doesn't have any flares. And then we pulled that head on there with the MiG-21MF. Got him critical in the tail. He's actually going to go down right there. He crashes into the ground. We turn around just in time to see that F-104's missile launched at us. Now, the F-104G doesn't actually have very good sidewinders. I think they are. It's got some kind of variant of AIM-9s. They're probably AIM-9Es. And that's not a very suitable missile for 10.7. You definitely have to be firing that at sleepy targets that aren't paying attention. We circle around on him, split right back there onto a 6, launch a magic, and at those kind of ranges, once again, the F-104 has absolutely no chance of dodging that magic. That first gameplay you saw was a 6-kill match. This one's a 3-kill. I put this one in here because it's a little more realistic as far as what kind of results you can expect while playing your Mirage. It's gonna generally look something like this, and a lot of whether or not you win or lose comes down to if you have the Phantoms on your team. The Phantoms are absolutely stomping everything right now, and I don't think you can blame that on the F4F anymore. I rarely see F4Fs. There's maybe 1 or 2 in every match I play, or even less than that. It's really not about the F4F anymore. It is the matchmaker screwing over the Axis side, but definitely not because of the F4F. It's just all F4Es versus not MiG-21 BISs anymore. I don't know why. The MiG-21 BIS had this exact same problem, where it was all MiG-21 BISs versus just a couple of F4Es, and that's why the MiG-21 BIS was overperforming. On the flip side, now we have the Phantom overperforming. You guys know my opinion on those two planes. I'm not going to talk about it anymore in this video. With that being said, that wraps up our 3-kill match here on Sicily. I do have a couple more games coming up, maybe 1 or 2 more that we'll talk about. By the way, shout out to these 2 guys that saw me and said hi. If you guys see me in a match, feel free to say hi. Definitely makes my day. I love seeing you guys and meeting you guys in the game, so feel free to say something if you see me around. Welcome back to this map, whichever this one is. I'm not really sure, but here we are. Starting in the air, the game's kind of developing all around us. You can see a consistent pattern here. I kind of like going on the sides of the maps in 10.7 aircraft. I just find it very helpful, not only because it puts you on the flank of the enemies, generally speaking. There's always a group going down the middle you can kind of get around on the side of, but also you can third party a lot easier. And, you know, as silly as it may seem to some people, just trying to shoot aircraft that aren't looking at you, that's definitely the best way to play. Why get in a dogfight if you don't have to? The best way to kill something is to kill it without it even knowing you're there. So that's the plan usually when I get into a game. People are usually engaged by the time I get into combat, and it helps me get nice 6 o'clock aspects for my missiles, easier to lock onto them, and they never even see me coming. So we start off there, get a nice little shot onto an F-100, I believe, I'm not really sure, and then we get the radar missile, the R-530, I'm pretty sure it's called, on one of the Phantoms, who seem to not be carrying chaff nor understands how Fox 1 fights work. And then we get another kill with another magic on somebody on lower altitude. But the problem is now we're out of missiles. And as good as the magic missiles are, you still have incredibly low killing power in the Mirage compared to aircraft like an F-4E, a J-35, or a MiG-21 BIS. In fact, I would definitely take 4 AIM-9Js over the magic missiles, only because there's 2 magics. The AIM-9Js are perfectly suitable for 10.7. They're very good missiles, and you can generally get 3-4 kills every single time with them if you pick your targets wisely. On the flip side, yeah, the magics are the best missiles in the game, but there's only 2 of them, and that only goes so far, so just keep the lack of firepower in mind. Nonetheless, we're diving down here on these 2 targets. The F-104 seems to be the bigger threat since our teammate is already chasing the other guy. The F-104 is kind of slotting onto the 6 of our teammate. As he tries to get away from me, I'm able to spin around and get a nice little reversal shot kind of in there on him. And we're feeling pretty confident, so we're going to go head on with another F-104. He is the last guy alive. Should be a nice, quick, and easy kill. He does have a Vulcan, but I've got 230mm. And welcome back to Sicily. We're up here at medium altitude, where I said I kind of like to play the Mirage. Medium to low altitude, I never go up too high. This is generally high enough to get a radar lock for your R530s, but low enough that you can easily dodge and run away from aim 7. Still trying to get that shot there with the R530s. I like to try to get the R530 off easily just because it's a lot of extra weight and it's generally not that helpful. So yeah, I try to get the shot, but you have to understand that the R530 is generally not going to be too helpful to you. All the enemy has to do is pop a little bit of chaff that pretty much always tricks your radar, and if not, just outmaneuver it. I never bring chaff on any aircraft. I always bring extra flares because I never have problems with radar guided missiles. If you see that it's launched at you or you have RWR, you literally just have to pull hard or hit the deck. The radar missiles are only 15G. That's not too hard to dodge in this game, as silly as that sounds. But we're able to pick up a nice kill with the magic on that F-104, and you can see just how long these missiles burn. I'm not sure if it's quite as long as an AIM-9J, but it certainly picks up more speed. It has a top speed of Mach 2.7. The AIM-9J, I believe, is 2.5. So that is a pretty good increase there in speed. Generally, speed is going to be better for your missile. However, not always, and people don't understand that concept of how a slower missile can be better than a faster one. Once again, that might be a topic for another video, but generally speaking, yes, a faster missile is more deadly than a slow missile. So overall, it's definitely a good thing that the Magics can hit Mach 2.7. Pull ahead on here with an F4E, no dice. I'm still not too used to these guns. They're a little difficult to aim for top tier. Not only just because they're not very high velocity, especially if you used to like point and click laser shooting with the M61 Vulcans, but if you do hit, they do sufficient damage. I'd expect a little bit better given that they're 30mm, but it seems like every cannon in this game, unless it's the Vulcan or something like that, is a little underperforming in my opinion. But the F4 comes back around for another pass. He kind of does something I call a suicide head-on. What I mean by that is he doesn't just commit to the head-on. He actually pretends that he's not gonna do a head-on and then last second pulls in for the shot. Guys, never do that. It is the dumbest tactic you could ever try in jets. Some people probably feel big-brained by doing it, but I'm telling you right now, a good player is gonna be able to take advantage of that every time. So hope you guys enjoyed this video on the Mirage. I'll put something out again, another jet, very soon. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something from the video. I will see you on the next one. See ya.